I love that clip because I have chickens.
What is
it? Chickens would die. A fucking raccoon came in.
Have you ever looked a chicken in the eye?
I love that fucking thing.
What's it from?
It's Werner Herzog.
Talking about how stupid chickens are.
Oh, man.
The enormity of their stupidity is just overwhelming.
All right. We're recording.
Welcome, everybody, to DAT Poker Podcast, episode 162, presented by Daniel Negreanu's Masterclass of Poker. I'm your host, A. Schwartz, alongside Roscoe P. Coltrane.
Buongiorno.
T. Chan. T, how are you, sir?
Hello. I'm very well. Happy Chinese New Year. Happy WSOP schedule release week.
Yes,
it's all good. Let's do it.
Let's go. We got a ton of stuff to talk to Daniel Negreanu in Las Vegas. Hello, Daniel.
What's up, gentlemen? Let's do this. Fun times. World Series of Poker is upon us. I know it's only it's months away, but it feels like, the buzz is already starting to happen.
It's less time than it usually is between the announcement and the first event, right? Yeah. So,
Well, it's like, what? Home. It's like 92 sleeps or something. It's not a long time away. It's crawling up on us. We got lots to talk about. We're going to go through the schedule. We're going to go through some of the buzz that was created around the World Series of Poker release. And we'll get into that. First, Roscoe, are you playing the GG Millions here as we do the podcast? Are you involved in a hand right now we can talk about?
I am currently involved in. I just won a hand, actually. Yeah, I'm off to a good start. Nice. I've doubled up, and I was at a pretty tough spot at my table to begin with. I had two I would guess pros to my left, and I've been moved, and I doubled up. So
this might be the last time. It's possible this is the last episode of this podcast ever. If Ross ships the million, we don't have a fucking producer.
Well, considering the hand history that Ross sent us in the group chat, he's like, what do you think of this play? I'm like, which part was like the worst part of it? It was hard to figure out, but I think the
enormity of their stupidity is just overwhelming.
If Jamie Gold can win the largest World Series of Poker field in history, then
I'm not sure Ross has the speech play that Jamie does to be able to talk people into calling off.
That's true.
So, yeah, I mean, GG Millions, the overlay edition is back again this year. Remember, last year we had it's a $150 tournament with a $10 million guaranteed. Sounds weird to even say. I think it's $1 million up top. Was it $1 million up top, Daniel? Is that right?
I don't know what first is. I know that it's a $10 million guarantee that they're not going to hit. Over the last 2 years alone, I think there's been like 1.5 million in guarantees. So I shot a little video I posted on social, is this the best value tournament of the entire year? And you can make an argument for it, I think, when you think of the price point's only $150. It's affordable. It's the freeze out per heat type situation. It's not like a rebuy frenzy, which is a lot of people like. 10 million guaranteed, which doesn't hit. So you're going to have an overlay. And like I said, multiple, starting days on day one. So, I mean, pretty juicy. I mean, if you are a professional poker player or you are looking for big value, this is the one every year that you should definitely put on your calendar.
Yeah, all kinds of ways to get in there for $1 or $2. Satellites, Club GG. I'm guessing I didn't look, but I'm guessing Club GG has a way in there probably as well, or maybe not. But I know Club GG is going to have stuff for the World Series of Poker. I think didn't GG send? We'll talk about it later as far as the main event goes and how many people we think are going to runners we're going to have this year. I want to say GG sent almost 800 people last year. I'm sure they've looking to exceed that if possible, and satellites around the world I know are going to run for the main event. But we'll touch on that later. But if you are going to play online, you're going to play an online tournament. Jump over to GG for $150. You can win $1 million. It's crazy. Did Phil Grusom win it last year? Right. So I mean, the good players will play it, but there's also tons of casual players in there too. So you could run up a stack and go deep like Roscoe here. You never know. So as mentioned, we did talk about it quickly, but the World Series of Poker schedule did get dropped. We'll get to that. But Sean Deeb, remember last year we talked a lot about this. Sean Deeb, speaking of the World Series of Poker, booked a bet with Bill Perkins. It was a weight percentage. It wasn't a pound. Remember, Sean was a big man. I think he was over 300 pounds, and they, wanted to lose some weight, and he wanted to get some action on it. And he weighed in at a DEXA scan, I think of about 40% body fat, somewhere in that range. And he had to get down to 17% in about 14, 15 months before the World Series of Poker this year. And Sean wasn't providing, it was funny, right? Because, I want to follow along with it. I know Sean a little, and I want to see his progress. and he had like a camera crew and he started a YouTube channel, and then all of a sudden there weren't any updates. It's like, okay, what's going on with the bet? How's the, there was the odd thing from the gym here and there, but there wasn't a ton of, so we weren't sure where he was at. He did recently posted an update where he was shirtless and looking a lot better than he did before. But recently, Bill Perkins this week bought out of the bet for $800,000. Remember, Sean put up 100 to win Bill Perkins's million, 10-1, and
it was 50.
Sorry,
it was 20-1, 50,000 to win $1 million.
Okay, I'll double check, but I thought it was 100. Anyway, either way, he bought out for 800,000. And Sean won, so he was down to 22%. He was about 5% away from hitting his goal. It looked like he was going to make it. I don't know about easily. I mean, like we said, we're only 3 months away, and he 5%. That it's not linear. I'm sure it gets harder and harder, Terrence, to get down to lose that next percent in body fat. But bought out, and Sean, I think the main thing here, and how great is Bill Perkins to inspire somebody like Sean to do this, and others theoretically to get healthier, and just fantastic of somebody like Bill to do that. But Sean does. It'll be interesting to see. I think we're all hoping that Sean keeps it off, and wrapping it up. Hold on
now. So Bill Perkins, I just want to say one thing. Like, he wrote a book called Die with Zero, and if he keeps making these weight bets, he's well on his way.
Yeah, 800K is not a drop in the bucket for sure. So. But yeah, no, fantastic. And I think this kind of helps Sean a little bit as far as, not being completely emotionally spent by the time he gets to the World Series. We mentioned there's 3 months out. And now he can, I think he said he wanted to reach his goal still and get to 17%, for his kids and prove that he can do it. And I think there's some side bets or something too, but they might've got settled. I'm not sure. But thoughts on Terrence first. Let's go to you. You coached me through my bet with Bill Perkins. You helped me get down from 230 to 150 pounds. I don't remember exactly what we thought of Sean's chances, but he's a determined guy. Looks like he was going to make it.
Yeah, I thought he was an underdog. I did not think he was a 10-1, 20-1, whatever it was, underdog at all. I mean, I thought it was maybe like 4, 5, 6-1, that kind of thing. So I thought Sean was getting any good. And, that's even ignoring the life EV aspect of, even if he makes it from 40% to 22%, that's still a huge life EV win, even if he ends up losing the prop. I'm surprised Bill bought out for a couple of reasons. Like you said, he kind of does this altruistically. Like, I don't think he made this bet because, I've got a real good spot here to grind out 50K, 100K, whatever the number was. He did it, to improve the lifestyle of somebody that he knows. But which is why I'm surprised at the buyout now that he's kind of close. I don't remember what he was at, 20 some odd percent, 24% or something like that. But like you said, Adam, getting from 24 to 17 is arguably harder than getting from 40 to 24. I mean, they're both really hard. They're both really.
It's definitely 22. So
22.
Yeah, makes pretty big difference considering the timeline, right?
Yeah. It's really hard to get each other because once you're already lean, it's hard to get much leaner. The body doesn't like to continue to do that. So. What you're essentially saying, if you're buying up for 800,000, you think he's a 4-1 favorite. Now do this, right? Because you're putting, you're saying, your only downside is 200K versus the million. So I don't know if Sean's a 4-1 favorite to make it down to 17%. I mean, especially obviously now that he's no longer motivated. The interesting stuff is the side action that other people had. So if me and you, Daniel, had a side bet on whether he would make it, we'd have to settle now and sort of decide, well, if he doesn't make it to 17%, like, let's say I had to know, like, technically I won. And you would say, well, but no, they called it off. So like, you should buy out for the same amount. There's going to be a little controversy with respect to how people do side action. Sean thinks it should be like a similar thing that the person who bet the no side should pay out, 4/5 or whatever of the bet. But, I'd be a little salty about that if I was somebody who took the no side. Cause I do think the last few percent is obviously so much harder than the first 13 or whatever percent.
You bring up a really good point, and I hadn't thought of it until you said it, but it's interesting because I'm actually involved in a bet, which we're going to talk about, where it's really important to think of all these things beforehand, or either A, you do one of two things. You do both. You come up with arbitrators beforehand, just in case something comes up that's weird and awkward. right? Or you have it clearly in the writing, like you're going to go based on what their bet is, right? So like if me and you, Terrence, we bet on the side and I said he's not going to get there and you said he is, right? And now he's already settled the bet and he doesn't get there. Well, does the no get there? That's not really, so, but at the same time, it's like, I didn't want Bill Perkins necessarily negotiating for me on the no, right? So I'm going with the purity of the bet. But I think ultimately, probably the fairest thing to do is go with what Bill did. As far as his decision to do that, the 4-1 thing, I think what you look at is sort of, okay, the process up till now, like Sean did it, he proved essentially he can do this, right? So really, I think Bill's calculation is the only way that he's going to win this bet or that Sean doesn't get there is if he gets sick or if he gets hurt. And, he hasn't really up until this point. And I think like maybe he just didn't want to root for the guy to get sick. So it's a way to just save $200K. And for Sean, I think it's probably like, it's a good hedge, right? Even though you think you're probably going to get there, do you really want to bet?
Oh, if I'm Sean, I'm taking this all day.
Like do you want to risk $800K to win an extra 200 that, something might not, something might come up. And again, like you said, you might not even know, like, okay, well, 19 to 17, like what's the deal here? That's not something you can do in a week or two. And, that's like a solid month, you would think. So makes sense for both, I guess. And it's like, again, another example of gamblers being crazy. And it's interesting because these types of stories, and I know this because I was just doing some stuff that I can't really talk about, but mainstream stuff. And this is what they want to know about. The man with the $100,000 breasts, these crazy side bets, like the sicko gambler degens that we are. Sean said this, I think, in one of his tweets. He's like, poker players are like the best at winning these bets because we come from an analytical mindset and we're like, all right, we're going to tackle this and they'll just, get it done. Like, I don't know historically how many of these weight bets people didn't win, but it's very low. Like,
Doug, right? Doug was the one that I can think of that didn't make it.
Yeah.
Yeah, if they bet that the jack of spades will jump out of the deck and squirt cider in your ear, you'll end up with an ear full of cider. To this day, like nobody, whenever I'm at the poker table, nobody ever asks me about anything like I've ever really done in poker. Not that I'm like super accomplished, but they all want to know about the time that I wrestled Huck Seed in the parking lot of the Rio for fucking
perfect example.
No money. Because it's ridiculous. Because you have a 6'6" college athlete who's like in his 50s against like this tiny professional fighter. Who would win? It's fun. Like it's just because it's a silly fucking thing that would not happen outside of the poker space.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see. Sean go through the World Series of Poker. That's the hardest part, right? And for poker players, Daniel, you do it every year. You kind of you grind in the gym, and then you're playing poker. I know we're going to talk about your schedule later, and it's probably going to be lighter. But when you're in playing poker 16 hours a day, it's hard to stay disciplined. And for Sean to get through the World Series of Poker and then get back on track, I think we all hope that'll happen. All right, so let's get to it. The 55th Annual World Series of Poker has been announced. We're all waiting for a couple of weeks. As Terrence mentioned, this is the latest it's been announced, the schedule, because everybody needs to make plans. We need to get to Vegas. We need to gamble. We need to get our rolls together and head off to the desert. The schedule was released on Friday. 99 bracelets starting May 28th to July 17th. And the announcement kind of kicked off a bunch of interesting discussion. I think because everybody's chomping at the bit. Let's get our side bets in. Who's going to do what? We've got a guy, and Daniel, you were tweeting about this one and some others, but Jeremy Becker, who is a tournament player who wins the daily win tournament every day, it seems like. It's amazing, this guy's run that he's on. And Landon Tice, they booked a bet.
Well, hold on. You're skipping a bunch.
Okay,
let me jump right in.
This is my cue for you to jump in.
Okay, but yeah, we're skipping over stuff. So, because I want to explain how this all sort of happened, right? Yeah, obviously the schedule's released. We start talking about fantasy. One of the things I mentioned is we're not going to do the online events. So as you mentioned, 99 events, not including the onlines. This year for fantasy, we're not going to include the online. So I was thinking, I used to do on FCP, I used to do a full contact poker. I used to do this thing where for fans, I give them like a 10K sweat where you just pick this guy or that guy, pick Adam or Terrence or whatever. So I came up with some fun matchups, considering all the beefs going around. I got Ike against Phil Hellmuth, and I just made a list of them, right? And one of them I put together Jeremy Becker versus Landon Tice. Okay. And
so what was the origin of the beef here? Is it
why?
Well, I'm going to get there. I'm going to get there. I promise. There's no beef between those two.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
I put it together because when you look at it, I think it's a really interesting, matchup. You've got, the GTO studied guy versus the guy who doesn't own a computer, has never looked at a solve, just plays live and crushes, right? So it's like we have this conversation. I want to get to this a little bit later about GTO versus exploit. What's better in these fields? So we're going to have an opportunity this summer. Obviously, over 20, 30 events, it's kind of meaningless, but we're going to have an opportunity to follow this narrative. And people are going to put way too much emphasis on what actually happens. But we have the ultimate argument. And we have you can't really do sort of like a scientific study on this, right? What's better? So this is the closest we're going to get. A guy who's literally never looked at a solve and a guy who looks at solves a lot. And they're going to go head to head in these big fields to sort of test themselves. Now, why did I put them together? I put them together in a matchup because I didn't think it would happen within 7 minutes, but I expected, and this wasn't, I didn't offer a crossbook or whatever. I expected them to get riled up by the matchup. And within 10 minutes, Landon says, crossbook, my DMs are open. I'm thinking this is how old school people did it, Throw it out.
Is he sold out? Does Landon have all the action he wants? Because it seemed like a lot of people were on the Becker side. Is Landon sold out?
Well, it's not really Landon, right? So we're going to get to that in a minute. Obviously, Landon doesn't have this kind of money. So, this is really going to end up being Berkey. So part of my other thinking was, so this all happened. We're going to go back just a moment to see sort of where this came from. Because I've always been friendly with Berkey. Don't have a problem with Berkey. We have one commonality that he seems to be blind about, but I'm aware of. When I'm at my worst, I'm incredibly arrogant and condescending. I'm aware of this. He seems to think I parade it around as though it excuses. No, I'm aware of it. And I see it in him, right? I see it in his tweets. I see it in his demeanor. I see it in the way that he's certain. And listen, it's not all of who he is, but it is a part of him, right? So I took issue with, he constantly goes after Jonathan Little, okay, who's got a very successful training site, the most successful in the space. And he's always picking at him, with these tweets, right? And then later he says, no, I wasn't picking at him. I'm like, listen, buddy, let me read this tweet to you, okay? You ready, Ross? Okay, so essentially this says, anyone who thinks this, okay, let's break that down. Anyone who thinks this, Jonathan just posted it, right? So that's Jonathan, okay? We're clear on who that is. Anyone who thinks this can have a seat in my game and 3% back. Why is he offering that? What is he saying? Is he saying because I love your company? Because it'll be a great pleasure? No, it's literally saying because I think you're a sucker. I think you're stupid. I think you're an idiot, right? Why else would you phrase something this way? So anyone who thinks this, Jonathan Little posted it, right? And then adds, you can have a seat in my game. So I was over the constant pecking at him, right? And whatever. So I stuck up for Jonathan. Then they go on their podcast and he's sort of clueless, mocks this fold I make with 2 nines that is theoretically a call, right? But has no realm of understanding of the depth of the history and the dynamic between me and Jesse and all this sort of stuff. Just this kind of narrow view of how a poker hand's played. And you can't, I'll tell you what, slight
well, just for some context, Berkey's a cash game player, right?
Yeah, right. He doesn't know anything about these tournaments at all, right? But so the thing is this. Let's say Adam and Terrence, you play a hand against each other, okay? Terrence makes a play that I look at and I go, well, that's a mistake, right? I don't know what Terrence knows about you. I don't know what your dynamic is. I don't know that the last 7 times that you did this, it led to this. So there's always going to be, from an observer's perspective, all we can do is look at situations and say, okay, well, in theory, this is plus EV or this is minus. But that doesn't mean it's the best or right answer. Anyway, so he goes and mocks me or whatever, which is fine. I don't mind. So it becomes a back and forth thing. And then, whatever. We haven't really spoken since. So I kind of felt like they would probably
You've tweeted since. You haven't spoken since.
Yeah, no, not really. So I figured that he would bite here. And I genuinely think, based on my interpretation of how they both play, that this is a plus EV bet for me. I don't know how, it's hard to say over a small sample size, how big, but Landon, hit me up in the DMs and we're sort of working on terms, but, sort of touching on what Terrence was saying earlier, it's important to make sure what I'm planning on doing is writing out a full page of the rules, also agreeing to 3 arbiters just in case something happens that, was unforeseen, somebody gets COVID, whatever the case may be. And then, have it all clear so that if there are any issues, because it's a cockamamie bet when you do cross book and mutually played events, you sort of have to stay in touch. You have to get clear. So the bigger picture idea we have is probably to like map out maybe 50 events they might play, right? And the way that I look at it is before the event starts, this is important, I think. Before an event starts, it's important to say, are we on or are we off, right? Because otherwise angles could be shot. Let's say, you know, the bet is, okay, so let's say Jeremy plays, shows up on time, plays 3 bullets and busts, okay? Landon wasn't even going to play the tournament, right? Well, now he's plus EV to play. Or if Jeremy were, let's say, to build up a huge stack, well, now he's like not going to play it, so it doesn't count. So it's important before the tournament starts for both of them to agree mutually played event. The one other stipulation that I think doesn't make sense, and I was going to send you some tweets on this, but we I don't know, I sort of proposed like a 250K cap. Then I realized like that's actually dumb because what's going to happen is a lot of the tournaments they play, whether it's a 3K, 5K or whatever, like first through fourth, they're all going to be like over 250. So then they're really not playing for anything once they get fourth in terms of the cross. So I'm going to see if we can up the cap to like 500. Hopefully they're interested. And it's created a lot of fun buzz. Again, I think it is a really good, it's good for both of them, I think, too. You know, it'll gain them a lot of sort of notoriety and attention, which can lead to other things. And I think for the poker world, you know, I put out the tweet, see like which side you like. And it continues that discussion, GTO versus exploit.
So, okay, so I'm glad you touched on that because I think the poker world, the casual world wants to know more about who this Jeremy Becker is. I think more people know who Landon is because he's got a little bit more exposure. Who is Jeremy Becker other than what Adam said? He grinds and he loves the game. Where's his education from? You know, you've talked about this. This is a man who does not own a computer. He only tweets from his phone, that kind of thing. Never looked at a solver in his life. So what's his background? What's his education, you know, in terms of this? And how has he become a crusher? And why do you and other people like his side?
Never played online poker, right?
Yeah.
So here's the interesting thing, right? And I saw Johnny Vibes, he tweeted this out. He said, Landon's more study, right? And I was like, I understand based on the definition, absolutely, right? Like if you think of study as looking at solves, you know, breaking down theory and all that kind of stuff, there's no question that Landon it's not about more than Jeremy. It's like study versus zero. However, that's not the real world because Jeremy does study in a very different way. You know how he studies? He sits his ass in the chair every day, playing live, playing against the types of players that you're going to play, has been, you know, crushing for a while. In addition to that, he watches the Poker Go final tables. He watches the GG Millions every Tuesday. So he gets his info. So I love it because I was actually thinking about this when I was watching some Tritons. Like, can people learn how to play poker today just by watching the best players and trying to copy what they do? I believe yes. You know, again, maybe at the highest levels, it becomes more difficult, but there are, and I didn't mention, but there are a couple guys who play super high stakes, win, and then don't look at solvers at all. Okay.
Okay, can I stop you? Just I want to ask a quick question here. If you're watching Triton, like say I'm a beginning no limit hold'em tournament player, and I'm watching the Triton series, are all the the plays and the different things that those guys do, the Coons, all these guys, is that relevant playing $100 buy-in?
Of course it is. Of course it is. You know, that's like it's almost like that same. I don't know it was what podcast. It's like that whole idea, like, well, if LeBron James, you know, if you came
that
from
was me. I said that last show.
You, yeah, it was so good because it's so true. It's like, oh yeah, well, LeBron could never, you know, beat my little, you know, my community college game, right? Of course. It's so. Here's the thing: you're learning what the best of the best do. How could it not be applicable? The concepts that you learn when you watch those things, generally speaking, are ICM related, right? If you're watching final tables specifically, you're watching a lot of play that is heavily affected by ICM. If you watched one of those super high roller bowls where they show, let's say, from the early levels, you're going to see play be a lot different. But I thought it was interesting because the commentators for Triton was Randy and I can't remember who else. They're doing a good job of explaining, okay, well, he has king, queen suited, but the other guy only has 2 big blinds. So he has to play tight and he folds, right? I think when you watch that and you have a good commentary crew, they start to understand, well, he can't play because he's got to wait for the other guy. So you're essentially teaching a game of chicken, right? Where it's like, whose turn to go up against it? Who has to? And then also understanding this, he's the chip leader. He can apply pressure on that guy because he has to fold because that guy's short. So learning, then again, I haven't even talked about cards, right? I haven't talked about king, queen, ace, none of that. I'm just talking about the dynamic, right? Like, about, you know, outweighting each other. And that's essentially one of the most important aspects of making money at final tables, right? Is that ICM stuff. So this is what Jeremy studies. He doesn't study it with computers. He studies by watching how people play and how they react in these certain situations. And again, when it comes to experience and learning, I don't know that in the last few years anybody's put in more hours in these things than him, right? The question is, are these 200 dailies, are these 1600s, are they comparable to the World Series of Poker fields? Yes, they are exactly what the World Series of Poker fields look like. So for me, when you talk about study, Landon has all the theoretical study. Jeremy has none. Jeremy has the practical study of playing against those fields. So that's where I think a lot of people feel like maybe, that gives them an advantage.
Is there any run hot here? Obviously he's just crushed the win dailies and some of the tournaments, and he wins an absurd rate if you look at his ROI. But I'm wondering if there's, some small sample run good here. I don't know. You probably have.
Would it be possible? What also is possible? That he's actually run pretty bad, but still wins. It's so hard to know, right? Like again, it's a different fee. Obviously, if you're playing the 200 nightly, you're not facing the same players as the 10Ks. However, Jeremy did come into the studio and he played some 10Ks, and I will say that his table presence, his ability to focus, his ability to pay attention. He fits right in. Like, he didn't look out of place. Like, he wasn't, a fish out of water. He's making deep runs. He's making good plays. He's focused. He's in. And again, he's kind of like an old school type player where he just learned how to play these live tournaments, comes to Vegas on a short bankroll, and he's playing these dailies and trying to grind his way up. And then it's like a little bit Rocky Drago because, Drago uses the machines and the science and all that. And you see this kid, and me and Josh are like, I think this kid has some chutzpah. And I didn't know him. All I did was see that he's winning all these freaking tournaments. And me and Josh were like, that can't be a fluke. It could, but it's very unlikely. Let's get to know him. Let's see if we can do some business with him maybe. And then, of course, like I said, he's entered the studio and stuff like that. And, and talking to some other people too who've played with him, he's at those stakes. He's probably, among the most feared, for sure. And again, like I said, I even talk, and I won't name names because I don't want to get people in trouble. But I talked to some really good players at the studio and says, I didn't see him do anything wrong. I didn't see him doing anything goofy or weird or whatever. He was just playing good poker.
You put out a bunch of possible matchups. I guess we'll look for. Is that the only one so far that's garnering any action?
Well, none of them were really designed to garner action. These matchups that I put together, I'm not booking them. I put these matchups together because this is part of what that free roll is going to look like. So generally, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create 20 or 30 fun matchups. And if you have some creative ones you think we can add, we'll do that. And then basically what it'll be is the fan or whoever wants the free roll, they just pick one side or the other. So let's say it's if let's Helmuth versus Ike, you pick one, and then you're gonna have some duplicates, of course, a lot of people, but then your whole team will play against other teams, and then the person with the most points will win a prize. I haven't decided what the prize is yet or anything like that, but we're gonna figure something out.
All right, the one I want to know about is who can match up with Kessler. Who can? That would be a great to get Alan Kessler in a head-to-head matchup with somebody.
Well, historically, the guy would have been Tony Cousineau.
Min Cash Tony.
They would, yeah. I think they were both. I think the two of them combined, they're the number 1 and 2 at most cashes without a bracelet. I think. So
it's hard to find somebody who plays the same type of schedule like Kessler who wouldn't be a favorite over it. That's the thing. There's a couple out there that I think of, and I'm not obviously going to say, but
now, Kessler's going to be mad at you because he listens.
I was going to say, yeah,
I know he listens, but there are people I can think of a couple people who he'd be favorites over that do play the similar schedule. But the thing is that Alan he plays 10K mixed game events and stuff like that,
yeah.
And those are tough. It's not as much of a diss as it seems.
All right. Before we jump into the schedule, and what we're going to do is we're just going to go through the schedule, and you guys are going to jump in with any comments that you want to make on events, new events or placement of the events that we see every year in the schedule. But first, Daniel, you tweeted at the beginning of the year that you're going to look at your schedule a little differently for 2024. And in the past at the World Series of Poker, you optimized your schedule for Player of the Year, and that was your focus. And you played as many events as you could, and the right events to garner points to win that. You've got a different outlook this year. Player of the Year isn't going to be optimized for. I would imagine that winning 100,000 or 200,000 here or there is probably also not going to be optimized for. It's probably going to be for bracelets, I'm guessing, and being rested and ready for all the events that you feel you have the biggest edge on. Am I right in that? And then what percentage wise, what do you think your schedule load is going to be this year compared to the last few years?
So I think like I released on Twitter or X or whatever the full schedule of events that I may play, and it ends up being 45 events, not including any online events that could come into play. Now, those are events that I may play, but if there was an event that exists that's not on that list, then it's definitely not going to get played, right?
So you will not play anything that's not in those 45.
As of right now,
saying that
no.
in February.
As of now, no. Now, that all can change if, let's say, for example, you're in week 6 and you're really in the running for player of the year and it's close and, you might need to play a little more of an expanded schedule. I'll do that. But as of now, I don't really plan to focus on the online events. I don't plan to two-table really. Like, I think I said this in the video I released about it, but like the one that pissed me off was I was in the 10K short deck and I love that tournament. And the most important thing about short deck is watching people and picking up reads on flops. And I was playing 2 tables of online poker at the same time. So I'm missing everything. I don't see anything. So I'm giving up a huge edge, in a spot where I need to be paying attention. So I was like, I hated doing it. I don't enjoy doing it. So I decided, I'm not going to be doing that anymore. But the way the schedule I have listed, like I said, it's still 45 events. But what it's going to do is it's going to have me focusing on the big stuff, really not playing the small stuff, so that I'm not going to be like, so instead of me being in the 50 or the Gladiator, the $300 Gladiator, and then max late regging the 10K Omaha 8 if I get in, and then dribbling off a stack or something like that. That's not going to happen. So it's going to be, again, quality over quantity, which is going to be a focus on all the big buy-ins, 10K plus, with a few potential, like honestly, and we're going to get to it, the first week of the schedule is kind of shit for me in terms of like what I want to accomplish, which is okay. It'll let me like get my feet wet. But again, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to trust my body and I'm going to trust my mind. And when I wake up, if I don't feel like playing, I'm actually going to listen to myself and take the day off if I need it.
All right. Fair enough. So let's jump into the schedule, guys. You got it in front of you?
Speaking of which, there's no short deck tournament, right? Like, that's wild, by the way.
Just, I wasn't drawing. And
yeah. But it's still a bit of a surprise. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, Adam. Go ahead.
No problem. Event number 1 is May 28th. So we're starting a day or 2 earlier than we usually do. May 28th, Tuesday. Event number 1 is now going to be the $5,000 Champions Reunion No Limit Hold'em Freeze Out. So this is main event, World Series of Poker main event champions are free, I believe, to get into the tournament. And everybody who knocks out a main event champion is going to win a $10,000 main event seat for 2024. Interesting format. Really like that.
Disagree.
You guys can stop me. Okay.
Disagree. I don't think it's interesting. I actually, I'll tell you what, normally the World Series, what we do is we have like sort of a big, huge event of some kind to kick things off, like a 25K or something like that. This one to me, for again, maybe other people are going to disagree. This is like the most lame start off event ever. Okay. First of all, the 5K price point, I know it's going to draw well, but it's like my least favorite price point. I'd rather play like a 1K or a 10K plus. In addition, it's a bounty tournament, but like only WSOP main event winners. How many are we looking at that are going to play?
That's a good question. I'd like to set a line at how many are going to be in the event, right? That's pretty cool.
How many are live?
Going to play?
How many are live? Do we know the answer to that?
Not sure. I think Alan Kessler, he put out a post where he had all the possible.
Well, it's probably between like, it's like 20-ish, I'm guessing.
I'm gonna look.
Are live?
A lot, but he had it on his Twitter.
Interesting story. I was at the Win playing some Omaha, 125 Omaha, Parliament Omaha at the Win maybe 3 weeks ago. And I know, and I'm playing in a game and Barry Johnson is 2 seats to my left. And nobody says anything, and they're kind of, and Barry busts and he leaves. And I look at the table and I go, "You guys don't have any idea who that is, do you?" And nobody did.
So here's the deal. So Alan did post who's alive, and I'll give you the numbers here. It's exactly 20 possibles, which is not a lot considering the field size. And then Alan decides, because Alan's bored, to put together percentages on whether they would play. So he's got like Bobby Baldwin at 20%, Tom McAvoy at 100%, Brad Doherty 30%, Dan Harrington 10%, Huck Seed 10%. Fossil Man 100, so he tweeted that out. I mean, interesting to see, but again, I don't love it. I don't think it does much, it's just like, I get you want to start off with a bang and do something cool or whatever. I just don't think this is it. I don't know that like the Hall of Fame bounty when it was like the 1979 buy-in. You know, I don't know. It just
it's a way to attract names to get media buzz off the top is I think what's going to happen. But like how do you basically get names into the field is what they're doing.
They don't have any incentive. Like honestly, frankly, if you are a World Series Poker main event champion, having a bounty on your head, like you can look at
a free 5K in EV. Like,
do you?
Yeah, they're getting the free buy-in.
Yeah, they get a free buy-in. Right? Yeah,
I wasn't aware of that. Okay. I didn't know they were getting free buy-in.
So you should, Joe. You're getting a free 5K in EV if you're an average player.
I wasn't aware that the main event winners were.
It makes it interesting for me anyway, as a fan, to and it'll only be interesting if some main event champions go deep and we see them at the final table or how that affects the play, etc. So,
how many players do you think are going to play this thing?
14?
No, 14 total players.
Oh, total players. Oh, 228, like not a ton.
I think a little higher than
way
that.
Way over that.
Yeah.
Not even close. I was thinking more like 600.
Okay.
Like 500-600 people. It's the first event of the World Series of Poker.
Yeah.
Everyone's ready to come and play something.
Though. It's a 5K.
It's a 5K, but it's also a freeze out, which a freeze out actually makes the number lower because it's all uniques. So maybe it's like 430 or something like that. But I definitely think, especially when we look at the rest of the week, I mean, if you're a no limit player, you got that on the 28th. What's next? I guess the mystery millions. So actually the mystery millions being right after that, you can assume that people coming out for the mystery millions 1K, almost all of them are going to play this one. They're very similar in terms of buying, even though the mystery millions is a 1K, there's rebuys and all that sort of thing. So I would imagine if somebody's coming in for the start of the World Series, it's the day before they're going to play the 5K, with the bounty situation, and they're going to play this. So I think you'll get I've said 5. I don't know. I would say
to Daniel's point, if let's be conservative. Let's say Adam's number's right, 250 players and 8-handed tables. So we're going to have 30-ish tables, and we only have 15-ish people who are actually playing. Like half the tables won't have any main event champions to even knock out on it. So, and then a lot of them are going to bust out real early. You could bag at the end of the day and have never had an opportunity to play with one of them. It's very likely.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, moving on. Let's go. Event number 2 is usually the first event. It's the $500 casino employees no limit hold'em that traditionally kicks off the World Series.
Actually, hold on. I think that it's funny you mentioned Barry Johnston, and I think that Alan missed him. So it's 21.
Yeah.
Didn't have him on that.
He's going to play for a free 5K.
Oh, Barry will play for
sure.
Yeah. So interesting. So, the age old question about who qualifies as a casino. I think, Terrence, you played in it a couple of years. You probably might still be able to play in it. Who knows? I don't know how tight they are with their regulations, but that event usually draws, and it's a lot of fun. And I love that it kicks off the World Series of Poker every year, no matter who does get to play in it. Event 3. This is another one. So this is the $500 kickoff on Wednesday, May 29th. So event number 3, the day before the first flight of the Mystery Millions, the 1K Mystery Millions. So that one will get a big, it's a freeze out.
I'm surprised that's a freeze out. I really am. At the $500 price point, I mean, this one is really for the people who say, oh, there's too many rebuys and there's too many re-entries. Everything should be a freeze out because they're old school purists. This one, if you are one of those people and you don't show up for this, then shut up, because this is the one you need to support, because it's going to be a massive field. And a lot of people are going to bust in level 1 and wish they could rebuy.
Yeah, I'll tell you what I think. Again, I don't know this for sure, but I would imagine this plays a role. A lot of what they do when they put this puzzle together, which is a very difficult puzzle, is think about space, right? So the difference between a $500 buy-in freeze out versus one with rebuys, you're going to have a lot more people in the room for a lot longer when there's rebuys that, are going to bleed in to the Mystery Millions, which is going to be jam-packed as well.
Good point.
So making it a freeze out, you're looking at a much smaller number of tables you're going to be taking up, space for the Mystery Millions.
Yeah, good point.
Interesting too. I read that they have 700 tables this year available for tournaments rather than 600 from the years before. So hopefully the dealer quality is also increased at the same rate. We'll see.
How?
Or recruitment, they bring them in from around the world. Who knows? I mean, I agree. But I just hope that doesn't really make it worse. But, fingers crossed, I guess. All right, we did talk about it. Event 5 is the 1K Mystery Millions No Limit Hold'em. Flight A, there's going to be, I think, 5 flights. 5 one-day ones, but $1 million guaranteed for the prize pool and the $1 million guaranteed biggest mystery bounty. So somebody's going to win $1 million, a la Matt Glantz a couple of years ago, and pull the big one. So obviously that tournament has been a massive, the format's been a massive success. I think we can look forward to that, and we'll get to another tournament they're going to do with PLO as well. But this one, you're just going to have to get into it. Again, Terrence, you mentioned if you're going to complain and, you're going to be there for that 500 freeze out, I think you want to play this one too.
Yeah, no question. Everybody loves mystery bounties. Mystery bounty, everything. Like Ben will.
I'll tell you what's crazy. They've been doing mystery bounties for quite a while, and they're always in. I've never played one.
Yeah,
and I won't play one. I'm not going to play that one either. There is a 10K later in the series that I will play, but I'm definitely going to take that one off because.
I mean, how lame would it be if Daniel Negreanu gets up there, gets a big envelope, draws 25K, and he's like, "Whoa,"
or like 100K, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
it would be so lame.
Well, I don't know. But yeah, so of the events we've talked about, I will play the kickoff event because it's the kickoff event and it's a 5K. But one of the things that I've got on my schedule is you see that 1500 Omaha 8 on May 29th.
Yeah.
That's something historically I definitely would have played.
Yeah.
Right? For sure. But I'm actually, let's say, for example, I don't make it on the 5K. I will take that day off. That might be a day off for me because on the 30th is a 25K heads up. And heads up is grueling. Okay. So you play 8-9 handed, it takes a toll on your brain. But when you play heads up and you got to play multiple matches in a day, it's exhausting. Like you feel drained as hell. So
not only that, you can't late reg the heads up, right? And so a 1500 08, because it's 08, you have a great chance of bagging and making day two.
Yeah,
so if you bag, you can't play.
7 days.
Period. Yeah.
Yeah, that's going to take too long. And I don't want to be like, so the idea of what I'm really focusing on is there's going to be a 250K, there's a 100K, there's a 50K. In the past, I would just play whatever was the day before and then join those late. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to focus a little bit more on the bigger buy-ins, on, playing from the start where, almost always, unless I'm in something else, and making sure that I didn't spend 7 hours in a $1,500 Omaha 8 that left me tired so that now I'm playing heads up against Jason Kuhn in round 1 in a 25K. And I've got like Omaha 8 brain, that's not prepared to play. So for me, May 28th play, May 29th, nothing on the, so that's what I usually don't have. I usually don't have like full day off. That potentially could be right off the bat. And for the vlog, for those wondering, because I do a vlog, there's going to be days off. And normally there's a vlog every single day, whether there's a day off or not. We're going to take a full day off. No vlog, no anything. So you'll probably see on average, 5 to 6 vlogs a week rather than the full 7.
And the drive-in's going to be longer now, right?
Well, that's the other thing I'll be doing. I'm going to get a room for the entirety of the series. And what I'll do is, anytime I'm through to a day 2, I'm just going to stay there at the hotel. And then otherwise I'm going to come home and hang with the puppies and just like live a normal life. And hopefully my gym is done by then and I can, have the best of both worlds. But yeah, I mean, listen, it's not that crazy. The drive I used to be on from Summerlin was about maybe 20 minutes, let's say. From where I am now, depending on traffic, 35, 40 minutes. It's not that bad. But when you add up the amount of time you put into these things and the time you get home and the amount of sleep, it actually does make a difference, having an extra. Because, okay, so let's say I bust, right? Sean Deeb actually mentioned this to me a while ago. He's like, it's not just the drive time, okay? Like, if you're staying at the hotel, you're finished, you go straight to bed. There's 5 minutes from you to your room to sleep. Here, you got to walk to the car. You got to get to the car. You got to leave the place. It's another, like, say, 5-10 minutes. You get home. Then you get home. You get the wife, and you got to do the pillow talk, and that's another 20-30 minutes. So, and then in the morning, you got the same sort of issue. So yeah, it ends up being like a significant amount of time. And I'm going to utilize a room. I'm going to have my little break room, and I'm also going to have a room.
That's event number 6, the 25K heads up no limit. Strikes me as a bit earlier than usual. I think they feel like they moved that up a bit.
Yeah, I was really surprised that like this was the first big high roller, right? Like, because this is also the one that I think of, when you talk about recreationals and casual players, well, heads up isn't usually the one that they pick that they're going to play.
Bill Smith. Bill Smith, maybe.
Yeah, well, right, exactly. Except for Bill, who's a crusher. But it is also the only one too, where it's going to have a cap. Like you got to get in there, and that's other part of the reason why I'm not going to play the Omaha 8. I'm going to lock up a seat, get my buy-in right out. Like that's the first thing I'm going to do is get my seat in that 25K heads up.
Event 7, Thursday, May 30th, the same day as the start of the day one of the 25K heads up, is the $1,500 Dealer's Choice. Super fun event, 6-handed. That one will draw a large crowd, I'm sure. Again,
all right, that one is on my schedule.
Oh, good.
As a potential, right? Because it is a fun event, and it's one of the very few 1,500s that I think is on my schedule. And part of the thinking there is it's a 25K heads up. You start at noon. One match will take. You'll be done by 1:30, 2 o'clock. If you advance, you play another one probably at like 4 or 5. You're done at around 8.
Well, so, it's not on your schedule. I'm looking at your tweet right now.
It isn't?
You didn't put it on there.
Get it in there.
You're already lying, Daniel. It's not on. You put the 10K, but you didn't put the 1,500 on there.
Okay, well, maybe. Wow, that's.
You have to edit.
At least I was being optimistic.
Yeah,
about
you're gonna have to edit that one.
Heads up. But also, actually, part of it might have been just simply that I don't want to miss the next day's event, which you'll get to, I'm sure, which is the 5K PLO.
That's event 8 on May 31st. The 5K PLO 8-handed. That one will be first PLO event, right? So that'll be a bunch of people in town for that one. $1,500 no limit on Friday, May 21st. I know who's going to play that one.
May 21st, no limit. What?
May 31st.
Oh,
$1,500 limit hold'em.
Oh, limit hold'em. Yeah, there you go.
That is going to be T Chan's first event.
You know what it is? Yeah, it is. It's like this is an event that actually this will surprise you guys. I've actually skipped a few years in a row. Because it's always sort of been at this spot, and I'm trying to like limit the actual amount of time I'm in Vegas and away from my kids. But one change on here, which I haven't seen anybody in the Twitter space talk about, 8-handed. Last year we moved the 10K to 8-handed.
That's all you, buddy.
Yeah. This year we moved even the 1,500 to the 8-handed treatment. So Omaha 8 or better, limit hold'em. Those are the traditional events that are played 9-handed. No longer. It makes such a big difference going from 9 to 8. It doesn't seem like a difference, but it's a real big difference. It feels so much more interesting.
That actually happened organically while we were on a podcast. You and I. You were like, we got to make this 8-handed. I sent out a message. I said, you're like, all right, boom, made it happen. Everyone loves it.
And now you can't skip it. It's been
I will be skipping.
He's saying I can't skip it. He's saying
you can't,
I can't because I'm the godfather. I've been entrusted with shepherding the 8-handed limit hold'em. So yeah, I'll probably fly in the night before. I'll fly in the 30th and play 1,500 limit hold'em, which I haven't played it in a couple of years because it's just not super exciting when it's 9-handed, but a little better 8-handed.
All right, so let's kick in June 1st, event 10. This one I'd love to play. Now that I'm back to playing all the time here, this one would be a fun one. I think I might
sell it on poker.
Try and satellite into.
Okay, I definitely want to talk about this event because there's a little bit, I wouldn't say controversy, but there's a little bit of blowback from some of the mixed game players. Normally, all these 10Ks that we have scheduled are 3-day events that bleed to 4, right? As you can see here, this 10K Omaha 8 is scheduled for 4 and likely to bleed into 5. So the question comes up when you compare a 10K Omaha 8 versus a 10K deuce to 7 triple draw, and the structures are identical. Obviously, the variance in triple draw is massive. The gameplay is much bigger, and Omaha 8 takes longer. Having said that, the 10K Omaha draws way better. Like you're looking at, most of these 10Ks get in the neighborhood of 100 players, 120-ish. The Omaha is going to get like close to 200. So as a function of number of chips, of course, they're going to last longer. So it's interesting to see that specifically the 10K Omaha 8, I don't believe any of the other 10K mixeds are actually scheduled 4 days. What happens is they all bleed into the fourth day, inevitably. This one is actually scheduled for 4. So I sort of been listening to people that are saying, we should actually make the structures based on game type.
Oh, yeah.
Because split pot games like Stud 8, Omaha 8, they just take longer, period, right?
Yeah. And the turnout for the Omaha 8 is going to be better because ask any mixed player what their best game is, and they're going to tell you it's Omaha 8 or better.
It's funny you bring that up. It's like, it's the one game where everybody thinks they're great at, but like now in the mix, like it's often not even played because everyone's great. Nobody makes any mistakes in that game.
Sunday, June 2nd, event 11 is the $1,500 Badoogie. It's back.
Yay.
Terrence,
we were worried it wasn't going to come back. But when then it drew 600 players last year, Daniel was actually skeptical. Daniel, I remember when we did their preview show for last year, he was like, Badoogie, they threw it in, but I'm not really sure it'll do that. It crushed. So glad to have Badoogie.
How many did they get?
They got 600 or something. I think.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah.
I won't be playing it, but good luck.
Thank you.
Event 12, $1,500 no limit hold'em 6-handed. Interesting, it's on a Monday, June 3rd, not on the weekend there. I would have thought that would have been a Weekend Warrior type one, but scheduled.
Well, you're six-handed. You need more tables. I think that's the main consideration on that one.
Oh, okay. Yeah, good point. And then event 13 that same day is going to be the 10K Dealer's Choice Championship, six-handed, obviously. That's also, it looks like they've put both again close this year. So
they've been doing that with all of them. Like if you can see, like every event where there's a 10K, the 1500 happens first.
Very close, right?
Yeah. So they're doing that like within a reasonable amount of time. This one's fun. We've talked a lot about Dealer's Choice on this podcast, I know, but like I really look forward to this one. Even though, everyone's going to have a couple weak games, the amount of skill required to like play this is different than everything else, because not only are you going to have to be well versed in all the games, or at least have a decent understanding, you're also going to have to know what to call when, based on who's at your table, what position they're in, ICM implications later, stack size. All these various things go into your mind. Like, for example, the short stack special, the one game you call if you're super short in an ICM spot is?
If you're super short, better. Stud 8, I'm guessing.
Close. It's sister.
Oh, stud no qualifier.
Ugly step. Yeah, it's its ugly stepsister, because the idea behind it is you want to play a game where when you enter a pot, your rate of ruin is the lowest, right? So with high-low 8 or with high-low no break, you start with ace 5 6. It will be very difficult in a heads-up pot to be scooped in those spots. It's very hard. You're usually going to get some piece and sometimes scoop yourself. So that's the game you see, come out. I remember years ago it came up early because we had a Russian player at the table who he didn't know the game, right? So like people always throw that out there just to see if somebody's playing split kings and split queens, right? Because like that is just a horrendous hand. Like you don't play split kings or split queens ever in high-low regular. So that's like often people throw that out. And then what happened was, and I don't like this, but it happened. We're six-handed. 5 of the 6 people were calling high-low regular until this Russian guy went broke. Because he kept playing big pairs. And what are you going to
do? Kill or be killed, right?
It's hard to blame anybody. Like, in addition to all that stuff with what game to choose in what situation, this is such a tough field because you're really only as good as your worst game because of exactly what Daniel said. Like when you play a game badly, the other 5 guys at the table are just going to know it and they will pick on you. And so it's not like, I play, there's whatever, I don't remember how many games, if there's 18 games in them. Oh, I'm pretty good at 10 of them. No. If you're good at 10 of them, you suck because they're going to find the ones you're bad at.
Well, who's didn't he win it, I think 3 times in a row or something like that? Adam Friedman, okay? It's not a fluke why he crushes this event. He's very, very good at it. And what he's good at, and I remember watching this because I was like, I didn't have as much appreciation for the event as I probably should have. And then as I learned more, I'm like, oh, no, this is great. Adam is so good at the fact that, like, number one, he's not afraid to play the big bet games. A lot of the times in these Dealer's Choice mixed games or whatever, people like the limit players are like, oh, I'm scared. I want to play big bet. He's fine playing those games. But what he does is he throws out a whole array of games and he pays attention and he looks for mistakes. And then he tries to find what is opponent's weakest games because he feels like he's balanced. I was so impressed with one thing he did. Helmuth plays in this, right? He got heads up with Helmuth, right? So what 2 games do you think he was playing?
I think Badusi was one of the ones.
Raz.
Oh, what does Helmuth pick? Or what is...
No, what is Adam Friedman was picking?
I think he was playing Badusi, right?
He was playing stud 8 or better and pot limit only.
Okay.
And if you had to if Phil's game and you played with him and you think about his like 2 weakest games, he literally was picking the 2 weakest games that Phil had. So how did he get there? There's 20, 30 games to pick from, right? So he does it by, he's like throwing out bait to see. He throws out a game and then once he sees everyone plays it fine, he's like, all right, next game, we'll go on something else. He's looking for flaws in his opponents because that's how you get the biggest edge. Your biggest edge isn't just from playing your best game. Right. Like Terrence, maybe limit hold'em's your best game, but what if your table is like, Ian and whatever, John Monet and all those guys, and they all play limit hold'em well, right? But maybe some of them don't play triple draw well. So it might not be your best game, but it's all relative, right?
All right, moving on. The event 14 on Tuesday, June 4th is the 1K Super Turbo Bounty No Limit Hold'em Freeze Out. So the 1K, I think there's bounties on day. Oh, every player's a $300 bounty. Yeah,
that's a fun one.
So that's
a fun one. You'll be done by 6 o'clock.
I kind of like. First of all, I like that it's a freeze out, and I like that it's a 1 day. And it's like a lot of people like sort of have different opinions on structures of the World Series. Like, why are they giving a crapshoot bracelet with 20-minute blinds? Listen, there's 100 events. you want deep stack,
Yeah.
Big, you've got that. It's nice to throw it some of these every once in a while. So that actually, I believe that one is on my list.
Yeah.
That too many bracelets thing, that ship sailed years ago, guys. Let's
talking
move
about
off
that. I agree.
Event 15, $1,500 pot limit Omaha high-low 8 or better. That's always a big popular one. That'll get big turnout.
Boy, that's the dealer's favorite game. I'll tell you that. Just day one dealer on the job trying to figure out this guy getting quartered for, with pot size. This guy's all in for 6,750. This guy's got 12,250. He gets a quarter. He gets half. Oh boy,
torture. Event 16 on that same day, Tuesday, June 4th, 5K no limit hold'em 8-handed. The next day, Wednesday, event 17, $800 no limit deep stack. Also that day, a $1,500 pot limit Omaha 8 or better. Pot limit Omaha high only, 8-handed. And then event 19 on Wednesday, 10,000 limit hold'em championship.
Didn't get to play it last year. Ran too deep in the Badoogie. I'm back, baby.
Yeah, you're going to play in that one. Optimize your schedule like Daniel does. Optimize your schedule for your best event.
I like Badoogie too. So,
all right. Event 20 is a tournament Daniel will not be playing. It's a $300 Gladiators of Poker, no limit hold'em, flight A.
I'll tell you what. The Gladiator last year was 25,000 entries. I came like 90th, and I absolutely punted. So disappointed in myself because I raised with Ace Jack, called off against the guy who had Ace King. It just was not good. But I remember enjoying it, because it was fun to play with ranked beginners, frankly, and just see how the game is and to get away. But it was also the most exhausting event I've ever played because, again, I don't typically, I'm not usually in a $300 buy-in with that crowd, right? So you think about, on breaks when I run through the halls and there's people who want pictures, they're all around me. They're
can't get away.
Yeah. I'm in it. So I'll be in a pot, or anytime I'm out of a hand, if somebody's coming up to say hello, it was pretty intense in that regard. Usually when you play these 10Ks or whatever, it's kind of roped off and, people leave you alone for the most part. But this one was an exhausting one. So in a way, I kind of want to play it. But again, going with the new motto.
There's also a 25K that day, Adam.
I think I'll probably prioritize 25K no limit.
6-handed. So that's that same day.
If you could buy in on day 3 for 25K into the Gladiator, then you might think about it.
Well, no, because he'd probably rather
also
triple drop.
I'd rather play it early. Just build up a stack.
Terrence, if you're not still alive in the 10K limit hold'em, I know you're going to play event 22, the $1,500 limit deuce to 7 triple draw, 6-handed, obviously. And then let's go to Friday, June 7th, $1,500 shootout. Flight A is that day. Also, the 10K pot limit Omaha 8 or better. We saw the $1,500 one earlier in the week. Also, Friday, $1,500 shootout. This is flight B. And Saturday, we've got the Gladiators flight. We've got a 3K limit hold'em, 6-handed. Terrence, this is your wheelhouse here. This first.
This is obviously I will be there that week.
Yeah. And then Sunday, we've got event 26, the 25K high roller. No limit 8-handed. Daniel, I'm sure you'll be in that one if you are not alive in something else. Event 27, $1,500 Big O. So we're going to see a Big O event there.
This is the second ever Big O, I think.
Well, this is the first time we're doing usually what we do with the mixed game tournaments is if it's a standalone event, it'll be a 2,500 or a 3K. Yeah. But when we have a 10K, there's a 1,500 with it. So this year we're going to have a 1,500 Big O. And as you'll see a few days later on the Thursday, there'll be the 10K Big O for the first time. It's become a very popular format.
5-card PLO high-low split game. Also, events or a Monday, event 28, $1,500 freeze out again on a Monday. Interesting. I hope those turnouts are good for not being on the weekend for the $1,500.
I tell you, I just feel the day of the week during the summer at the World Series becomes a blur.
Really?
Yeah, right. You can tell it's a weekend. You can tell when it's the weekend because the bathroom lines are so much longer. But the other 5 days of the week are pretty much the same.
All right, that same Monday, event 29, the 10K deuce to 7 triple draw championship tee. Mm-hmm. Is that your last event? Is that where you're?
Yeah, if I snap busted, I could play the stud 1,500 stud the next day. But yeah.
All right, there's a deep stack event on Tuesday. A 3K no limit hold'em. And you mentioned the $15 $15 7-card stud is event 32. And event 33 on the Wednesday's Pot Limit Omaha Deep Stacked, a $600 buy-in.
One thing I wanted to get to, because this one was frustrating to me, I didn't realize. One of the most popular formats in the last couple of years has been like PLO and No Limit Hold'em mix.
Yeah.
And that first 5K Omaha, that PLO, I was like, oh, that was, when I saw the first couple iterations of the schedule, it was the 5K mixed. And for some reason, I guess I didn't see the last iteration and then switched. So we're not going to have one, which is crazy because I feel a lot of people, that's one of the things that they looked at in the schedule, like, what the hell happened to that event? I think it's great, frankly, at the 25K price point.
Yeah.
Because at the 25K price point, what you get is you get every PLO player that plays it, right? Then you get some no limit guys who maybe aren't great at PLO. They play anyway because they feel like they have such a big edge in no limit. So you're going to combine the two high stakes world, in a 25K. So I'm going to try to push for that next year. I thought that maybe we could get one this year, but next year, I think if enough people, because it's a good format, it's really, and I am also the all-time leader in caches in that event.
Wednesday, June 12th, we have 2 events, or 3 events. The second one is a $2,500 no limit freeze out, also a $1,500 horse. Thursday, June 13th is a deep stack, an $800 buy-in, the 10K Big O Championship we mentioned earlier. And then Friday, we've got a monster stack for the weekend crowd. We've got a 50K high roller no limit hold'em 8-handed on Friday, June 14th, Daniel. You'll be definitely optimizing for that one.
I don't know. So that's the tough part. So sometimes we start to get into some issues, right? Depending on schedules, because I'm one of the few people who play mix and big no limit events, right? Because the day before, as you said, you've got the 10K Big O, right? Like I don't want to skip the 10K Big O. Okay. So that's on my schedule. So that would be one where, it might mean a late reg in the 50K. Like it probably makes sense to not even play the Big O. But again, I'll go based on how I feel. And if I feel like it's close on the day of the 13th, I will just take the day off. I certainly won't be playing, the $800 no limit deep stack that day.
Also a $1,500 Raz tournament on that Friday. Saturday, we've got another monster stack, $1,500 buy-in. And then an event a lot of people are talking about. This is event 41. It's a $1,500 mixed no limit hold'em PLO double bomb pot. So when you're playing cash games or when you're playing PLO cash games, every time there's a dealer change in some of these games, there's a double board PLO bomb pot. And what happens is there's sometimes it's 20, 40, 50, whatever the denomination is, everybody puts that in. You get dealt your Omaha hand, and there's 2 flops, 2 3-card flops. And you're playing a split pot game with one board being half the pot and the bottom board being the other half. So this creates all kinds of interesting situations, especially when you're playing Omaha. We'll talk about the difference maybe in a minute, but when you're playing Omaha, you've got 2 3-card flops and you've got 4 cards in your hand. There's a lot of combinations there, and there's some really large mistakes being made. These things are great for the game because people make some large mistakes here with how they play these hands, specifically the flops and turns for sure. But interesting that it's a split PLO no limit hold'em. I've never played bomb pot no limit hold'em in a cash game, so I don't know. But it seems to me like that would be sort of a much, I'm not going to say smaller, but it's the combinations aren't there for people to lose their minds with. So we wanted to get your thoughts, Daniel, on mixing this with no limit hold'em and PLO.
When I saw this on the schedule, I really thought it was a troll. I thought they were messing with me. I was like, yeah, right. And he's like, oh, you're serious? Okay. Like, I've never played this. Everything you just said to me sounded like, a very distorted sort of Jamaican that didn't like, I don't understand anything. I don't know what's going on, all this stuff. But, when I asked about it, they said, listen, it's become one of the more popular formats. Apparently it's usually only played PLO and not no limit. So interesting decision to just make it hold'em. Maybe the idea there is to get some people into it that are no limit hold'em players that, again, I don't know. I wouldn't even know where to start.
I wonder if the logistics, like Adam said, it was on the dealer change, but I wonder if in a tournament it makes more sense to do it like the first hand when the lines go up or something like that. Like,
well, isn't this whole tournament bomb pot?
Oh, the entire tournament. The entire tournament is double board bomb pots, and that's why
every hand is a bomb.
God help the dealers.
Yeah, Well, God help the players.
Well, the players are going to have to enforce a lot of the showdowns. Like, I've never played this, but if I'm going to give a piece of advice to somebody playing this, just turn your hand over at the showdown. Like, no matter what it is you think you're drawing dead, just turn your hand over.
I'll tell you what also, if you're one of those people like me, one of the most important things for that event, I think, is to bring headphones, because nothing drives me crazier than a 4-way split pot and 7 guys saying, put 1,600 over here, you put 600, and the dealer's trying to do this and this and this. And I could help, right? And I could help clear it. But you know what? For my own sanity, just pretend you don't see it. You know, bury yourself in your phone. Don't hear anything. When the next hand's dealt, it's dealt. Like, am I alone?
No, I'm one of the other sides, because I want the pot to be right. Like, I want the pot to be right.
Stressful.
So I'm the other guy. So, I mean, I'll be one of the 7 guys. I mean, I don't volunteer to be the first guy, but if I see something, I got to say something.
You know how much, I mean, I will say this. Obviously, you're doing it with really good intentions, right? But if I'm a dealer, you're doing it. All you guys are doing is confusing the shit out of me. You know
I mean, I won't do it ever to a good dealer. If it's a good dealer, I'll let them figure it out. But
even
be honest,
if
some
I
of
was
these guys just came out of dealer school.
Well, what I mean is, I guess what my point I'm trying to make is that if you're going to help the dealer, really should be one person, table captain, who helps the dealer. Because again, 2 people, like say you see a side pot and you say, okay, put 1,600 in the middle. The other one says, well, put 2,000 on the side. It's the same thing. Right. But she's like, well, wait a minute. You said 2,000. You said 1,600. Like, well, you guys are fucking, well, he gets the high, he gets the low, who gets this? It's like, it's so much easier if only one person does it. Because just imagine you being in the box. Yeah. In a spot where you're not really, and then like 3 people are talking to you.
And one of them's John Manette.
Oh God, just listen to him.
This is where you really want John at your table, because he'll take care of it. And you get to watch the show of him just steam coming out of his head because of this.
He's not as angry as he used to. One of the things about Angry John,
he mellowed when he had kids.
But one of the things about him is like, you know, he's well known for giving a lot of shit to dealers. But you know what? He's always right.
Always right. Absolutely
raw. Like but he notices everything. Like if the dealer didn't release the deck and all this stuff, like he's all over it. He just sees everything.
So I've been playing a lot of PLO lately, and the PLO cash game equivalent of this is the dealers constantly getting the pot wrong, because a lot of casual players will be like, how much is in the pot? And the dealer will go 435, and I know it's not 435, and a couple other players, but I'm not in the hand. So is it on me to say, no, you're wrong, it's not 435, or do I just sit by and watch? I've now taken to sitting by and watching, by and large, because it's not my issue.
Put the headphones on.
Yeah, exactly. So that event's going to be fascinating. I can't wait to see how many people play it. I would love to play it because I have some experience playing it, but I don't know if I'll be in town for it. We'll see. Event 42, Saturday, June 15th, 10K 7-card stud championship. Daniel, I know you'll be in that one.
That one is really good, well slated for me. It's on the Saturday. So when I look at the schedule, you got, actually, wait, never mind. Well, yeah, it's late enough because Friday is the 50K, and that'll be, so basically if you're deep in the 50K.
Well, in 10Ks, you can register day 2. So at a very minimum, you'll be in at the max late reg, which is starting day 2.
Unless I make the final table of the 50K.
Yeah.
So. I'll be in that.
All right,
I mean, that's
event 40. Anyway. Event 43 on the Sunday, June 16th, we've got a $1,500 mixed PLO, Omaha High-Low 8 or better, and Big O. That'll be a fun event for sure. $1,500, nice little price point for a bunch of people to play that one. We've got a 2K no limit on Monday, again with the Monday starts for the no limit hold'ems. Monday, we've also got a 10K horse championship. Definitely a one for Mr. Negreanu. Terrence, you'll be gone by then, I'm guessing?
Yeah, I wouldn't play it anyway. My 8 or better games are not good.
This is where mentally I have to figure out what's like. Again, so I said that I want to prioritize the high buy-ins, right? And a 10K horse, I really love the event. The next day is 100K no limit. Like, again, this is where it gets confusing even for me. Like, I'm not sure how to best approach this because I don't want to miss a 10K horse. But I really do want to play like the big ones on time. Like I will be able to, I'm pretty sure with like the 100K high roller, you can max late reg day 2 and I'll do that if I have to. And the thing is, many people will, but ideally I want to give myself the best chance and show up on time. But that's the thing is like, it's such a puzzle, not just for them to create the schedule, but also for someone like me who plays all the different formats to figure out what makes the most sense when I'm talking about prioritizing. But the way that I look at it with the 10K horse championship, I'll play that all day on Monday. And then, if I'm deep into day 2, maybe I don't get into the 100K, which is okay. It's not the end of the world. I mean, it means I'm doing well in something.
Tuesday is one of the most popular events. Event 46 is the 1K Seniors No Limit Hold'em. Daniel, you might be eligible for that next year. You can avoid it. You can avoid it next year. The 1K
I don't know
Senior.
that I'll play it. I mean, maybe we'll see. It'd be good. It'd be fun. It'll be fun to tell stories amongst our generation. I saw this yesterday. Someone was saying that someone who wrote a book said, every generation thinks that like the next generation is soft, right? Like, doesn't every generation think that?
Yeah.
And it's because it's just true. Okay. Like the generation before me and the generation before me, they were just tougher than us, guys. I mean, hey, you know what I mean? Every generation does get a little bit softer and, we're more pampered and we just have have it easier. But, like-minded people.
So I'm trying just to get this clear. You want to play this tournament just so you can bitch about young people. That's
yeah. So we can all say like, oh, you see those whippersnappers with ace-4 suited? Oh my God, they never seen an ace-4 suited. They didn't like these kids today.
Yeah. This guy 3-bet me with ace-3 of hearts.
Well, don't you worry. I had the best hand. Don't you worry. I got it in good.
Plus, it'd be awesome if Kid Poker won.
The media is going to have a field day with that one.
Yeah. That would be great. You mentioned it. The 100K is event 47, the 100K high roller on Tuesday, June 18th. Also that day, a 1K PLO. Event 46, again, the seniors. This is Flight B on Wednesday, June 19th, with a 3K No Limit Hold'em freeze out. Moving down, there's the Raz Championship, event 50. Wednesday, June 19th, the 10K Raz Championship.
That gets us through half of it. Maybe we should save the other half with another.
We're
yeah. Let's do that, and we'll touch on the main event. We'll go over.
Yeah, exactly.
That's where we should end. Awesome. Okay, yeah, that's a great idea. We'll tape or we'll record tape. I am 56 years old.
Put it on the 8-track. Ross, could you put that on the 8-track and upload that?
When you say tape, Generation Z is like, huh?
I got my scissors.
I saw this funny video. Did you see this video of this kid? This father, he took his 2 14-year-old kids, right? And he would like offer them a prize. He put up a rotary phone, right? And all he did was he gave him the phone number and he's like, make a phone call, make a successful phone call. And you watch these kids have no idea. Like they pick up the dial, right? They pick up the phone, then they put it down and start pressing the numbers. And then it was like, they're going, how do you do? What do you do? How do you spin this?
I love it. Daniel says that like we didn't spend the first fucking 10 minutes of this trying to figure out how his audio works on his computer. So for the Gen Zers out there who are offended, just let
fair point. I don't know. I mean, a new computer, new setup here at the new house. That's true. Facts.
All right, boys. Thanks for getting together again. Thanks to you out there for listening and watching our show. And we will be back with part 2 of the World Series of Poker and other stuff. We
stopped right at event 50 of 99. We couldn't have done it better.
We don't even have to write it down. We'll remember that.
I might not be here next week. I'm top 10% in chips.
Oh, that's right.
God.
So anybody out there who's good at producing podcasts, please send your resume to.
Now that Ross learned not to c-bet for size with.
Try not to go broke with 2 10s on the ace high board is all I'm going to try and say. That's all. That's we should not do that. All right, fellas. Until next time, we will talk to you then.
Bye-bye.
Peace.